page. Angles or corners are capital letters. Very important. Okay. Now sometimes they can be a capital letter like angle A, or angle A could also be angle BAT. Okay. And what we have in the middle is we have our vertex. Okay. So right in the middle, this will be your vertex. That's the middle part of the angle. Okay. Sides are always two capital letters or a lowercase letter. So for example, here's lowercase a. So this opposite side has to be uppercase A. That's the angle. So if we're talking about angle A, we're also talking about angle BAT. Okay? So we could have angle A or angle BAT. All right? Now, side, right, if this is little capital T, what would be the name of this side? It would be little t, because it's opposite capital T. Okay. Now, that's side BA. Okay. So we could also call it little t. So you have two possible names, BA or little t. Okay, little a, what else could be the name for little a? It could be BT. Okay. What about side AT? What would be another name for side AT? Little b. So you have to be able to name a triangle. We can give you either type of name. Any questions? Okay, continuing on. Sometimes you're going to remember that to find the missing angle, you can use up the 180 rule. So we can have 180 degrees minus 90 degrees minus maybe 50 degrees, and that will equal 40 degrees. Okay. So in this question here, then we would say that this angle here is 50 degrees. Okay. And so this would be 40 degrees. So we have to remember how to name angles and sides, and we also have to know how to find the angles. So you're going to be using that a lot. Indicating angles. Okay, so we talked already, a capital letter or three letters together. Okay, the vertex is in the middle. Now in trigonometry, we can also do Greek letters. So we have beta. Okay, so beta is a B, sideways B with a tail. That's beta. Or we have theta, which is like a circle with a line through the middle. And we also use the Greek letter alpha, which is kind of like a sideways fish. Okay. So beta, theta, and alpha are also sometimes used. Good. So we have to always tell you what angle we're looking at. If we shade it, then we'll say that this is our angle of interest. It just means that's the angle we're talking about. It's kind of a special one. And we can change that all the time, even in the middle of a question. Okay. Sometimes you'll see the term acute angles. It doesn't mean good looking. What does it mean? Less than 90. Okay. So for trigonometry, we must have 90 degrees. What about this opposite side from 90 degrees? What do we call this opposite side? Hypotenuse. Okay. You must be able to recognize the hypotenuse. In fact, any question you do, you're going to have to label your HOA. Hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. If you do it in that order, you can't screw it up because none of you know what adjacent means. Okay? Adjacent means beside or next to. So let's practice labeling our HOA. Here, I've told you by this symbol, this is your angle of interest. So when we're labeling our HOA, we start with our hypotenuse. Okay, so I'll just do three letters for short. That's opposite 90 degrees. The opposite side of the angle of interest would then be called opposite, because it's opposite the angle of interest. And what's that one that you don't know? Adjacent. Okay. And so that's the side that's remaining. So what do you have to label? Your HOA. What do you have to label? HOA. H-O-A. Now what we're going to talk about today is tan theta. Okay? Or the full name is tangent. So the tangent ratio is the opposite side over the adjacent side. So on your calculator, first of all, make sure your calculator is in degrees. So you want to look on the screen and see a little d or DEG. Now, for all of you that have graphing calculators, if you ever press the reset button on the back, it automatically resets to radians or R. You don't want that because every answer will be wrong. Or gradients. So what you don't want to see is you do not want to see an R or a G or GR, because that means that the angle is different. Okay, it's in radians or gradients. Does anyone have a calculator that's not D or DEG? Come up real quick. Okay, so what I just said to some people is you have to be careful because of your DRG, right? Like usually you have a one button that says DRG. That changes it between D and R and G. And sometimes it's really close to your second function button, and you can change it super easy. So you got to be careful. Every day when you start trigonometry, check that's in degrees. Now, this is super easy. If you have a new calculator, to figure out what this ratio is, you simply go tan 12 degrees, press equals. If you have an old school calculator, you go 12 tan, and the number actually comes up on the screen. So for me, I have old school, I go 12 tan, and look, all those decimals. So that's the ratio. So they've taken some numbers and divided them, and that's what it equals as a decimal. Okay, so 0.2, that's like, they probably got something close to like 2 divided by 10. That's probably what the side lengths were, something very close to that. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to write down 4 decimals, and you can round if you want. If you write down less, you will get wrong answers. Now if you write one that's round, you know what, let's truncate. 225. So truncate means you just stop writing. You don't round at all. 4 decimals and stop. Okay. Try the next one, tan 35 degrees. Okay, so 0.646. Anyone not get that? That's because I did something wrong. 35.7. Did everyone get that? Okay. So how many decimals do we want? 4. Good. And if it's not 4, you'll get wrong answers. Okay. And the last one, 58. Tan. 1.6003. Now, what if the textbook says to round? Should you round? Yeah, right? Either or is fine. I'm going to stick to truncating, but rounding's fine. But if you go to 3 decimals, it'll be wrong. Okay? Now, never use a rounded answer in further work. You should always use exactly what's on your calculator. We'll show you how. So, what angles give a tangent ratio greater than 1? So, example, tan x equals 0.999 versus tan x equals 1.111. The difference is this will be a proper fraction. For example, 2 divided by 3 equals 0.6 repeating. But this one will be an improper fraction, such as 4/3. Okay? So if you go to your calculator and go 4 divided by 3, look at your ratio. It's bigger than 1. If you go 5 divided by 4, it's bigger than 1. Okay. If you go 4.1 divided by 4, those ones are close, still bigger than 1. Okay. So what we want to find basically is your opposite side. Okay. Here your opposite side is bigger than the adjacent side. And here your opposite side is smaller. Because your opposite side goes on top. So, tan 45 degrees equals 1. So let's try, what's tan 40? So 40, tan, 0.83. We'll go 50, tan, 1.19. So if you have tan for less than 1, that would be less than tan 45. Okay, so tan 45 degrees is 1. Good. Now there's going to be questions in your textbook. I never really asked this. Well, actually I might. If tan b equals 3, that means that this equals 3 over 1. The opposite side is 3. The adjacent side is 1. Or you can have 6 over 2. How else can we have it as 3? 9 over 3. Okay, so this would be 3 and 1, etc., etc. Now, as a 0.25 will be 25 over 100, which is 1/4. So for this one, we would have a triangle looking like this, 1 and 4, and this here would be angle y. So you turn your fraction to a decimal. All I'd be looking to see is that the opposite side is 1 and the adjacent side is a lot longer, it's 4. Okay, so remember when talking about the ratio, it's also a fraction of sides as well as a decimal. It can be either. Hey, turn it over. Sometimes we're going to ask for just the letters. So tan A equals opposite over adjacent. And so for us, that's going to be, here's A. Label your HOA, please. Okay, label your HOA. Start with H, then O, then A. So the opposite side would be CB, and that would be over AC. Okay, try and put it alphabetical if you can. So I guess this should be BCA. Okay, what about tangent B? Now, for tangent B, guess what you have to do with your HOA? Switch it, because this is not the opposite side according to B. So that's not the adjacent side. So for tan B, these guys have to switch. This here becomes A, and this here becomes O. So when you switch angles, you switch your HOA. So for tan B, it's still O over A, but the opposite side is AC over BC. Notice how the fraction is flipped. So it's flipped for different angles. That's a good thing to notice with the tangent ratio. Now we can do the same thing with numbers. However, you have to find the answer for AC first. Leave it as a radical, so square root. I'd be really surprised if I gave you that. AC squared equals 15 squared minus 12 squared. So AC squared equals 225 minus 144. What does AC squared equal?
81.
81. So AC equals square root. Stupid me. Equals 9. That's a little harder of a question, right, with a square root. But you could leave it as a radical. Okay, so what's tan A, tan B? Go ahead, find them now. Label your HOA and then switch your HOA for each angle. How many people got this? I didn't, because it's not my final answer. What do I have to do first? Lowest terms, okay. So divide by 3, we can get 4/3. This one will be 3 over 4. Okay. Now you can also turn those to decimals. Okay. But we're going to do that down here. Okay. All right, go ahead. This one should be a square root. Okay, so okay, so that side is 10 root 3 when you simplify your radical. I know I'm going pretty fast here. Is that okay? Root 300, 10 root 3. Okay, so there's different ways of doing your work. I just showed you one way. So tangent theta, please find tan theta, tan beta. Go. Okay, so tan theta would be 10 root 3, the opposite, over 22. And then tan beta will be 22 over 10 root 3.
Is it okay to show up with decimal points?
Yeah, now you go to your decimal place. So, right, so they like them as fractions first, and then they go to your decimal. So it'll be square root 300 divided by 22, 0.7829. Okay. And for the next one, 22 divided by square root 300. 1.271. 01, sorry. Okay, so tan 2 beta. This does not equal tan beta times 2. Okay, it doesn't equal that. What you have to do first is find beta, then double the angle. We haven't found the angle yet. We're going to do that in a second. So I just want to let you know, you don't take this number here and times it by 2. That's not how it works. Okay. All right. Let's start finding the angles. So for this one, tan alpha equals 1.237. So we say alpha equals. Now what happens when you move tan to the other side? What do you have to do? Yeah, you have to reverse it, do the opposite. So we call it arctan. But because of calculators, we've kind of changed the name to inverse tan. Okay. So it's going to be arctan with a -1 exponent, 1.237. So, new calculators, you type it in as you see it. Tan -1, 1.237 equals. For the old school calculators, you go 1.237 and then tan -1. Okay, so you got to go to your inverse button. So watching me, 1.237, second function, where are you second function? Is it this one? Yep, tan -1, clear that, that's not what we're looking for. 1.237, inverse, what is that? Sorry, that's ln, 1.237. Inverse, here's tan -1. So it'll be 51 degrees. Now you have to write down both parts for your work, please. That first part is extremely important. So don't touch your calculator until you do it, otherwise you're going to screw up your quizzes. I'll tell you that right now. I see it every year. Class after class. So this one, x equals inverse tan bracket 3/4 bracket. If you put your brackets in there, your calculator has it. Now you can also go tan -1 bracket 3 divided by 4. This will work for everything. And so that's the habit you should get into, is using this one. Try it on your calculator. Okay, for me, I'm going to go bracket 3 divided by 4 bracket. Notice how it did it for me. And then go inverse tan 37 degrees, because you have to round. I'll tell you right now, whoever's not writing this down, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Okay. So then number 3 is the hardest one. Most calculators cannot handle that as a fraction. So you want to make sure you go tan -1 bracket 4.5 divided by 6.3 bracket. And all calculators can handle that. So if you have an old calculator, bracket 4.5 divided by 6.3 bracket, and then go inverse tan. 36 degrees, because you have to round. Anyone having problems with the calculator? So that's the basic work. Now what we have to do is do this off of a triangle. So find W. What you want to do then, if that's your angle of interest, is label your HOA. Go. Label your HOA. This would be the opposite side. This would be the adjacent side. So show your work. For your work, I want to see tan W equals. That will be for a mark. Opposite is 3.6 over 5.2. Then for another mark, W equals tan -1 bracket 3.6 divided by 5.2. I wrote my division as a fraction. You don't have to. You're welcome to use your old school division sign. And then I'm looking for the answer. How many marks is this question out of? 3. Please try and get 3 marks. Okay. Once you have it written down, then try it on your calculator. And you should get 35 degrees, 34.69. Okay. Any calculator issues? Okay. You guys all right? So we're going to skip now to the back here. This is just all review. Here's your two other questions that we can ask. When we're trying to find sides, okay, if we have the unknown on the top, then what we can do is bring, instead of dividing by 145, we bring it up and multiply. So what I like to do is go 145 times tan 34 degrees. And I don't like mixing it up with x, so instead of times, I will use my brackets. Okay. Now it doesn't matter which one you put first in your calculator. New school people, new calculators, type it as you see it. Old school people, 145 times 34 tan, and then equals. Make sure you press that equal sign. So 145 times 34 tangent, that's the ratio, and I press equals for the multiplication, 97.8. Okay, so everyone try this on the calculator. Put your hand up if you're having troubles. Okay, next one. So what we do here is that we want to get rid of this divide by y, so we bring it up and multiply by y. So y times tan 54 degrees, using brackets, equals 58. Now we have a multiplication. Okay, so y is out of the basement. That's good. We hate when it's in the basement. That's not good. So what we do then is we do the opposite of timesing by tan 54. We now move it to the other side and divide by tan 54 degrees. Okay. Now, a new school calculator, you type in as you see it. Old school, you go 58 divided by 54 tangent equals. Okay, so try it on your calculator when you're done writing. 42.1. We usually round our sides to one decimal, but do pay attention to rounding. Any calculator problems? Good. Now that's more or less what we're doing for the next 8 days. Okay. One quick more example is you got to set them up sometimes, right? So we want to figure out this length. Label your HOA. Here's 30. There's your hypotenuse. From 30 degrees, that's your opposite side. This is your adjacent. Okay. So tan equals opposite over adjacent. Tan 30 degrees equals AB over 10. Now this is just like the question above it, isn't it? Exactly like the question above it. So I want you to show your next line of work and then find your answer. Go. Looking above, what's the next step for your work? Instead of dividing by 10, bring it up and multiply by 10. So she had 5.77, which rounds to 5.8. Hands up if you got that. Awesome. Try for the next one. Remember, start by labeling your HOA. Go. So this will be your H, your O, and your A. So this will be just like the question above it. 9.6. Hands up if you got that.